This opening section acts as an introductory frame, setting a grand apocalyptic tone. It introduces Enoch not as a contemporary writer, but as a primeval seer whose words are meant for a far distant generation. The book begins with a stunning, terrifying description of the end of days, where the great Holy One marches out from his heavenly dwelling onto Mount Sinai. The high mountains tremble, the hills melt like wax in a flame, and the earth is rent asunder. God arrives to execute judgment, which is characterized by a stark division. To the righteous, he grants peace, light, mercy, and preservation. To the ungodly, complete destruction and exposure of their wicked deeds. The author employs a brilliant rhetorical device, comparing the physical universe with the moral universe of humanity. Enoch is commanded to observe the celestial bodies, the trees which shed and grow leaves, and the unceasing waters. Nature is in total, unquestioning submission to the divine decree. In sharp contrast, human beings have altered their ways, broken God's commandments, and uttered arrogant, slanderous words against his greatness. Because humans have disrupted the cosmic harmony of obedience, their seasons will be cursed, and they will find no mercy. "200 angels, the Watchers, looked upon human women and lusted after them. Fearing the weight of this transgression, their leader, Shemihazah, gathered them on Mount Hermon, where they bound themselves to a dark, mutual curse, shattering the boundary between the immortal and the flesh." From these forbidden unions came the Nephilim, giants of impossible, terrifying stature. When humanity could no longer feed them, the giants turned their endless hunger upon the people, devouring flesh and drinking blood, until the suffering earth cried out to heaven. But sexual transgression was not the only sin. Asael, the fallen one, brought forbidden knowledge to mankind. To men, he taught the forging of swords and breastplates, the technology of murder. To women, he taught the art of cosmetics and seduction, plunging humanity into a spiral of warfare and deception. The archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, looked down from the heavenly sanctuary. They heard the agonizing cries of the dying earth, drowned in blood and lawlessness. And they brought the case of humanity's destruction before the throne of the great Holy One. The divine response was swift and absolute, issuing 4 decrees to cleanse the cosmos. Raphael would bind Asael in the jagged darkness of Dudael. Gabriel would incite the giants to mutual slaughter. Sariel would warn Noah of the coming flood. And Michael would imprison Shemihazah beneath the hills for 70 generations. The remaining watchers on Earth, terrified by the impending divine judgment and the slaughter of their giant children, approach Enoch. Knowing his righteousness, they beg him to write a petition for forgiveness to present to God on their behalf. Clouds, winds, and shooting stars lifted Enoch up into the heavens. He approached a massive wall built of blinding hail and freezing crystals, completely surrounded by tongues of warring fire. Enoch entered a second, larger house of fire. Inside sat a magnificent, elevated throne made of frost, with wheels like the shining sun. Sitting on the throne was the great glory, whose raiment was brighter than the sun and whiter than snow. Because their spirits originated from the heavenly realm, the giant Nephilim do not go to Sheol or cease to exist. Instead, they emerge from the corpse as evil spirits, permitted to roam the earth, invisible and unhindered, to torment and oppress humanity. Enoch descended from the blazing heights of the throne room, bearing the heavy burden of the divine decree. He stood before the bound watchers, who waited in terrified silence by the waters of Dan. With a voice carrying the weight of eternity, he delivered God's absolute refusal. You shall have no peace. You should intercede for men, and not men for you. Enoch is brought to the western edge of the earth, where the sky meets the deep cosmic abyss. He beholds a fiery, chaotic void, where 7 stars are bound in burning chains. These celestial beings transgressed God's command, sentenced to burn in this prison for 10,000 years. Guided by Raphael, Enoch is brought to a massive, towering mountain of hard rock in the far west. He discovers the underworld, Sheol, divided into 4 hollow, echoing chambers, waiting to separate the spirits of the dead until the day of final judgment. Traveling south, Enoch sees 7 magnificent mountains radiating with precious stones, cornelian, lapis lazuli, and alabaster, glowing in absolute divine light. The middle mountain rises majestically above the rest, serving as the earthly throne of the Lord of Glory. At the center of the earth, he beholds a holy, blessed mountain with flowing, bright streams. But directly opposite lies a deep, desolate valley of smoke and fire. It is the accursed geography of condemnation, a spectacle of divine justice for those who blaspheme the Creator. Deep in the east, at the very edge of the world, he enters the misty garden of righteousness. He gazes up at the massive tree of knowledge, its fruit glowing like beautiful grapes, its fragrance drifting incredibly far across the cosmic winds.